Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on August 9th, 2023 at approximately 4:23 p.m. PST. Now, I've returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life, and the philosophies of life I talk about are the philosophies I personally use to guide my own life and have used to guide my own transformation. That came out well. From a very low self-esteem individual to a potentially hyper-confident, potentially overbearing, definitely outspoken individual that is no longer afraid to go after my own future. Now, the different part here is they tell me it's lonely at the top. I don't have any interest in being lonely any longer. Therefore, I'm quite intentionally going to take as many of you with me as I can get away with. To this end, the way I've laid out my company literally means 80% of the net profit will be going back to customers, employees, contributors, co-workers, supporters, you name it. Okay, 10% will go to me personally to repay what I've already invested. 10% to the company growth. 10% will go to charity, and I'll get into that at another point. Okay, the other 70% is already earmarked. Okay, and one thing is for certain. None of it will be going to a so-called registered charity where the administration cost eats virtually everything you give it. In my case, all of the administration costs for anything I'm doing will come straight out of the company. Now, I left the house today, and like I said, I have a problem dealing with people in general. I became very reclusive for a lot of reasons. Okay. And the reality of it is, I went out today and ran smack into one of the most arrogant, self-centered, short-sighted, I could go on with a whole pile of things. But to say the man was prejudice, and I use the term man really loosely, this kid was nothing but a boy in my eyes. And here's why. Okay. He claimed this was his land. I looked at him and I said, look, actually, it started off when he asked me, bear in mind, he asked me if I could give him a lift to a meeting that he had within 3 or 4 blocks. Okay, he desired a ride. When I told him I had another meeting I had to deal with, okay, he looked at me and he goes, what, you don't like natives? I looked at him and I says, were you born in Canada? He goes, yeah. I says, you're native. So am I. But I said, I'm betting dollars to donuts. I got a couple of years on you. And he says, nope. Now, bear in mind, this kid looked, now it's possible he was honest. Okay, it is possible he was honest. But he looked like he might have broken 20. Okay, he looks me dead in the eye and goes, I'm 100 years old. I'm like, that doesn't add up. But before I go any further, okay, let me just bring something up on track here. Should double check, make sure this is running properly. Forgot to do the other thing too. So what do we got going on here? Yep, that's fine. So we can go this way. Looking around a coffee cup doesn't work well. Okay, now before I go any further, then I'm going to get back to this other little issue that I'm looking just happening like a hot dang. And again, forgot to do this little thing. One day I will remember to do that before I actually turn the video on. But here's the thing. Okay, I do not handle prejudice well. Okay. Where are we here? Just going back up. Right off the bat here, we have Shadow and Sons, and that means we have to come in, and where is the video run? Whoop, there it is. Video run. Bring that over here where I can actually see what I'm working with. And we go Shadow and Sun. Where are we? Right there. Well, let's blow that up. Or more to the point, expand it. Yeah, I talk to myself a fair chunk. That seems to go hand in hand. Don't know if I call it part of my charm. I really don't feel I've got any charm to speak of. But, this is me. Anyway, Shadow is in with the gold. And Shadow, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Simply put, this is the link to Shadow's stream. Give him a listen. Give he and his son a listen. If you like what he has to say, do give him a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And then share the daylights out of it. Now, then we have football cat coming in with the silver. And Emmy Tonga is in with the bronze, followed by Philip Blair is in with the honorable mention. Now, obviously I'm a little behind here, but I think I finally figured out how to keep on top of things, sort of. Anyway, prejudice is one of these things that you have the ability to bring to a cold stop. Okay, this guy, he looks at me and he goes, "You just don't like natives." I looked at him and I said, "I got no problem with natives. I have problems with a lot of the people of the human race. And in all fairness, with a lot of people from other races. But this is why I said, I will treat everybody the same way. And ultimately it boils down to I treat people the way I desire to be treated. From my standpoint, it boils down to this. This guy sitting with his bicycle right in the middle of the sidewalk where it blocked everybody's traffic. And he lives in, and he was supposed to go to a meeting that couldn't have been any more than a mile away on a bicycle, and he wanted to ride. Now, to me, this boils down to lazy. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're one of these people that is on a cane, okay, or on a walker, or you've got mobility problems, absolutely getting a lift is imperative. Okay. But I had a really bad day today. I ran into a chap that was begging for money. And I know this chap happens to be a member of a very wealthy church in the area. Now, I got to ask you, if the church is actually taking care of the poor and the sick, why is its own congregation having to turn to the general populace to actually survive, never mind get ahead? Okay, key factor here. You desire prejudice to come to an end. It's up to you to do that. And that is done by literally be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. And energy out, energy in. Now, I will treat any one of you in exactly the same fashion. Okay, I'll absolutely give you the benefit of the doubt, if it's at all possible. Now, I'm looking at this, and the one thing we have to remember is virtually everybody on this planet, at least as far as civilization goes, most of you are human. There are some of you that are definitively hybrids, some that are half-breeds. Okay, now, do understand, a hybrid is a vat job. Go into the lab, combine two species, out comes a hybrid. Half-breed, natural reproduction. Natural based on human concept of natural. Okay. So I'm looking at this. Yeah, and unfortunately football is going, football says riding coattails. A lot of people do that. Now, the reality of it is, from my standpoint, I'm tired of living in the shadow. Well, I'm really not tired of living in the shadows. But I do know I can no longer afford to stay here. If we are going to change this world, most of the people out there have no clue where to start. Now, let me ask you this. If you knew how to start changing the world, okay, in your opinion, is it right to stay in the shadows and not say anything about it? Or is it essentially a necessity? If you have a good idea on how to change things, is it more right to stay in the shadows and let people figure it out so they get their own sense of independence in time? Or is it better to stand up and say, hey, guys, here's a road you might want to look at, and lead them through the shadows, through the obstacle course? Which one do you feel is more effective? Now, I am going to continue scrolling down and see what I can do to try and keep on top of things. And remember, guys, if you have a question, even if it's not on the topic that we are talking about at the time, put your questions in all caps, or at least put a wavy hand in there so I can spot the question. Okay, because I will do my best to answer them. Now, what do I got here? Take a look at all this stuff. And yes, I'm going to get some stuff out of the way. You'll notice I've been working in the office and buried my bed again. Not necessarily a good idea, but it is what it is. So as long as nobody phones me, I don't have to worry about that. But the reality of it is, in your eyes, which makes more sense? To stay in the shadows and hope people figure it out, or to come out of the shadows and say, hey guys, turn on the lights. Here's the obstacles you're facing. Now let's get through this mess. Let's work together. Now I'm just scanning here, and Shadow goes, we are all prejudiced. It's just a matter of how much and how well we hide it. Ultimately correct, Shadow. I've been told that I've got a very short temper, and accurately, by the way, I've got a very short temper for people I consider stupid. Now, absolutely, I am not the most brilliant individual on the planet. Quite frankly, I may be one of the most twisted, but I work with it. And I just noticed Nathan has come in. And with that in mind, here is Nathan and the Quantum Show. Here is the link to his stream. And we just paste that in there. And again, give him a listen. If you like what he has to say, do give him a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel and share the daylights out of it. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm really, I've reached a point where waiting for people to wake up doesn't add up to really functional. Where are we here? Way down there. I have no idea how far way down there is. Oh. Here we go. Now, Henry's just asking, you once said off-worlders fear humans for their ability to manipulate quantum or zero-point energy. Why do they fear such a thing? What are they worried we will do? Well, here's the big worry. Okay, they fear it because humans are very aggressive, and I mean on the whole. Very aggressive, very short-sighted, and very self-serving for the most part. Now, if you've got the ability to modify reality, you can take that. If you're not even willing to cooperate with your own species, this becomes a very definitive problem. And of course, humans don't think in long term. The so-called First Nations, centuries back, had a very simple philosophy, and I got this from the native wise men. Okay, from the local native wise men. They used to look at it and go, if we're going to make a change to the landscape, we're going to check 7 generations down the road. If we're going to cut a tree down, we're going to look 7 generations down the road to see what that's going to do to the landscape. Now, here's the thing. Humans, so-called First Nations included, will now they will completely clear cut a mountainside. Problem, you clear cut a mountainside, the root system that is holding all of the dirt in place is gone. Now when you get a rainstorm, which you'll get in the mountains, all of a sudden, you end up with a very simple problem. You all of a sudden end up with a mudslide. This is because of short-sighted manipulation. And what are we looking at here? That is one of the biggest things that the off-worlders are concerned with. Because humans on the whole, now most of the people in this room are clearly not of the normal cut. Because I see so many of you reaching out to support each other. This is fantastic. Okay, we got people in here from all over the world. And I mean, I'm increasing my knowledge as to where all you are coming from. But prejudice simply means you're looking at somebody, and if you're Shadow is right. People are, myself included, everybody's got the prejudices. Everybody's got their likes and dislikes. And that's good. The reality is if we were all the same, this would be a very boring world. Okay. Now, I'm just scanning down here. I take a look at all of the news that's being posted right now, and I'm going like, this is ridiculous. Okay, if you're buying into it, my personal suspicion is that you're looking at it and you're buying into the fear base. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, that doesn't work well anymore. Absolutely, Jenny. I'm glad to hear that, though, by the way. Jenny Whiteberry is just going, I didn't buy into the Peru alien attacks, just another fear narrative. And that, unfortunately, is the way that a lot of this is. Now, the reality is somebody decided they were going to throw at me today. When I was out, I ran into some people that were just, to me, it's not that I don't desire to help these people, but trying to talk to a closed mind is frankly an exercise in frustration. Derek, the sad reality is there's a lot of really stupid bad things happening here. But let me ask you this. Okay. Because Derek's just going, tell that to the young girl who got slashed across the neck. Let me ask you this. I'm not debating whether she got slashed. We're not debating whether the fear is being amplified. The question is regarding Peru. Was it an alien that came down and slashed the girl's neck, or just another human operating in fear or capitalizing on it? This is what we are looking at. There are so many possibles. There are so many possible side effects here. And this is where we're not going to go, is what could have been the problem. What could have been was it a bad setup? Doesn't matter if it was an alien attack, one individual going psychotic, or a mob just turning a community upside down. In any event, violence is negative. It does not bring peace. It does not bring tranquility. It brings fear. Okay, now granted, fear will absolutely bring quiet. But most of the issues that we're looking at, and yeah, the incidents are ongoing. But let me ask you this. Nathan. Okay, the negative incidents are ongoing. But let me ask you guys, are not marriages, creative creation, creative developments, are not are not amicable resolutions of conflicts? Are these not happening on a regular basis as well? Okay, this is the thing we have to look at. Uh-oh. Yeah, I mean, and this is why I tell you, if you're reading something negative, okay, if you're reading something negative, posting something negative, listening to something negative, for every one of those that you do, okay, listen, read, or post two things that are positive. We start doing that as a society. And I don't mean society as in Western, I mean global. In other words, as a species, we start tilting that. We start listening to the positive things in life and making that our dominant concern. This world will change. Now it's up to you whether we wait another 50 or 100 years before we do it. Or we can start now. And this is why I've decided to come out of the shadows and go, okay, enough is enough. Now, here's the stupid thing. With today's world, there is absolutely no question that somebody versed in audio dubbing could make my voice say anything at all. But let me ask you this. Okay, from your standpoint, well, there's a real simple answer to that there, Derek. Derek goes, well, can't read that. Yeah, Derek goes, I wonder what grilled gray aliens taste like. Well, let me ask you this. Do you ever wonder what grilled human tastes like? Because I will tell you, here's the answer. A grilled gray alien tastes like a grilled gray alien. It doesn't taste like rabbit. It doesn't taste like pig. It tastes like it is. Now, I'm a lousy one for taste assessment. That'd be the other question, Skip to Malou. Why would you eat that? I've always listened to people going, oh, kissing a smoker is like kissing a dirty ashtray. My first thought is, who was the genius that decided to kiss a dirty ashtray to find out? Like, where was the intellect there? Or was there any intellect there? Now, prejudice is rampant, but it's being amplified. Okay? It's being blown right out of proportion by people jumping on the conclusion that one group of people is better than another. That's what they tell me, Philip, but in my eyes, that's actually wrong. That's terrible. Nathan goes, they're wrong. It's nothing like an ashtray. I checked. I'm not sure if that was bright, but at least it gives you an honest answer. It's like when somebody says, this tastes like feces, which is another word for that, by the way. And yes, I know some people remember what that tastes like. Most kids have tried that for whatever reason. Okay, it does paint the picture properly, though. Now the thing we have to remember is every single individual. I appreciate that, Nathan. I really do. Every single individual in this world, okay, has their own likes, their own dislikes. And it's absolutely necessary. Remember that thing. We were given free choice, free will, free choice. You're entitled to like what you like, to dislike what you dislike. The thing is, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. You desire prejudice to get out of your life. Do not entertain it. Do not propagate it. Okay. Now, one of the big things, and again, guys, especially if you're new here, and if you're not, this is just redundant. But if you like the stream, do give us a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel and share the daylights out of it. It's time we really start pushing the idea of getting people to be happy with each other, of spotting the positive sides. Voices, I did not see you come in. Welcome on board. I'm glad you could join us. Now, somewhere up here is where you popped in. There we are. Yeah, Voices is going. Keith is going to Peru to beat up the aliens with his bare hands. Not a prayer. Do understand, I'm a pacifist. Okay. This does not mean I do not feel people should fight. Should fight for what they believe in. Okay. I'm just one of these people. Number one, I'm an empath. I get angry. I feel the pain of what I'm causing. Okay. Never mind the pain I feel of what of my own generation. Okay. But I had to scroll down there. The thing is, from my standpoint, I don't feel any of this stuff about alien invasion is worth putting any effort into. Okay, mind you, I look at the segregation being brought about by the spiritual guidance communities, by the politicians, by the general population. Promoting prejudice is absolutely a problem. And the moment you specify that you qualify any type of life, if you're not going life matters, if you're specifying any type of life beyond that, okay, you're right there promoting prejudice. Okay, and I implore you to put a hold on that right off the bat. Well, here's the thing, Philip. I will tell you from what I've been told, people that like alcoholics taste a lot different than people that eat healthy. They eat healthy all the time. The flavor is different. Okay, just like the flavor when you're cooking something, if you put the spice in and you let it cook for a little bit, okay, the flavor of that food is going to be different than if you put the spice in, mix it up, and serve it. Okay, but it depends on whether you know how to cook. Not my strong suit. Yeah, Skip goes, sorry, but we're more pigs than chickens, so is our meat. And the reality is this: everything in moderation. When I meet somebody, my first thought is quite literally, is that person a decent individual? When I get immediately accused of being prejudiced because I refuse to drive somebody somewhere, total stranger, I've never met the guy before, right? When he turned around and looked at me and he goes, "Oh, you just don't like natives." And I'm like, how did you come to that conclusion? By asking if I give you a ride. Absolutely, Philip. And this is why I look at it and go, when you're starving to death, you don't ask. Nobody asks who the person. Back that up. When we have a massive conflict, And right now, we have a massive conflict. But when we're right smack in the middle of it, people are not asking, oh, I know you're starving, but did you vote for so and so? Or do you believe in women's lib? They just don't ask this. The question that comes in, when somebody says, can I have some money because I'm having trouble I'm having trouble making ends meet. On the whole, people don't go, well, where did the problem come from? Jenny's going, I would like it if the beings would step in when people try to sell this fear and show the bad guys what a real alien can do. The funny thing about it, much as I understand the concept, Jenny, the ramifications of that could be far further reaching than you may be aware of. However, what we as individuals can do when somebody claims this kind of fear, okay, ask the logical questions. Ask questions directly. You're telling us there's a land assault of aliens. Okay, show us some sort of documentation, not just this idea of, I'm telling you that's the way it is. But answer this. If they come all that distance, why are they using human tactics? If they are more advanced, why are they using human tactics? If money is what makes people happy, then why are so many people committing suicide when their finances falter? Philip goes, I want to vote for Sasquatch. Sasquatch campaign slogan can be, it's time for real change. It absolutely is. And in all fairness, and this is going to sound like I'm putting a feather in my own cap, I won't even go looking for a feather, so not going to happen. But this is why I decided to come out of the shadows and go, okay, we got to start working this. We got to start passing on the information that, guys, doesn't matter what your skin color, doesn't matter what the difference, who you crawl into bed with has no bearing on whether you're a decent person. Okay, whether or not you look down on people, there is only one reason that I know of to look down on somebody. And that is if you happen to be at a higher vantage point, i.e., if you're taller than other people, yeah, you're going to look down on them. But that's it. Okay, I remember when somebody used to say they were gay, it meant they were happy. Somehow that got twisted. Okay, and now we got all these other definitions that all they seem to do is promote segregation. Okay, promote separation. I don't know about you. Well, I can safely say you're not necessarily content with this. This is going south really fast. And it's time we really start promoting the idea that we can turn this world around. It's going to take work, absolutely. But where it comes to the prejudice, just ask yourself one thing. When you're looking at somebody and you think about a prejudiced outlook, ask yourself, are they really that different from you? Aside from maybe their skin's different color. Maybe they've got a different style of clothing. Or perhaps they like tattoos. Now, I personally won't get a tattoo. But do I like the artwork that goes into it? Absolutely. Would I ever get one myself? No. Closest thing I'm going to get to a tattoo is, I'm writing away and all of a sudden, I end up with an ink mark on my hand. That's about as close to a tattoo as I'm going to get. And that's personal choice on my part. Okay, but we have to start looking at this and going, okay, how do we turn this world around? What can we do to shift the thinking? Well, the first thing you got to remember is if you see something on the news, whether it's on, on actual news, I don't know how you would get a hold of mainstream. But if people start saying, hey, I want to know more about who got married, who got a promotion, who came up with a new business idea that is helping people. And I don't care if people make money at it. Okay, rest assured, what I'm doing with my books, I have every intention of generating a high income. Yeah. And that's just it. I mean, but you got to remember with Liberace there, Philip, you got to remember, sure, he was a little odd. Okay. But boy, could he play the piano. And he really didn't have a bad voice. Now, I'm not one to be able to really comment effectively on singing, aside from what I know I like. And that's where it ends. But the reality of it is, the word gay has come to mean so much of a negative thing in a lot of people's eyes now, even frankly amongst many of their own people, okay, of their own orientation. I was watching one lady, and she said when it started out, she was involved right from the get-go. But when they turned to deliberately mutilating children, she said, I want nothing to do with the community anymore. Now, this was not my comment, this was somebody else's. And no, I have no idea who the person was. I only remember that she was a woman. But the fact of the matter is, the prejudice has to stop. We can keep fanning the flames of prejudice. We can build back up and have ourselves another civil war. If that's what you're really intending on, I'm telling you, that's the direction society is pushing things. Not doomsaying, just looking at the patterns. It's been done this way many, many times. Yeah, Derek's going, both my kids, and I'm guessing we've got typos here. Oh, I see. Okay, that was a typo. Start pre-kindergarten tomorrow. Okay, the one thing I will tell you, and I will tell anybody going into the modern education system, absolutely, they do need to understand the world. They really do, as it's being portrayed. But when you've got them at home, be sure to talk to them as adults. Okay, certainly use smaller words when required, but you start off treating them as though they have a brain, because they do. It's not as developed, it's not as prejudiced, it's not as greed based. Every kid starts out with the same options. Yeah, and that's exactly the way I do it. That I do it when Jenny, Jane's just saying when things happen to upset me, I step out of it and ask myself, does this feel true? Why would this happen? And that's the whole thing. Okay, if we're going to listen to the fear mongering, you're more than welcome to. I'm not one to say you can't, because I'll tell you, the moment somebody says you can't listen to that, first of all, that's censorship. Okay, we've got to have free will. We've got to have the right to think for ourselves. Okay, but those laws that are in place for society, you gotta stand with them because laws are necessary for a society to evolve. Now I gotta ask Derek, did little Derek pick out Spider-Man shoes that he can actually climb the walls with? You know, one of the things, I look at it and I do my best to bite my tongue, especially on somebody else's show. Yeah, Terry goes, if he can, then we got a superhero. Now, of course, we got to remember what Spider-Man once said, what Ben once said. Spider-Man's uncle. With great power comes great responsibility. Now, I have this thing. I've got this vision of a world where we can walk down the street, where we can talk to each other without worrying about, without worrying about the color of somebody's skin or who they're voting for, and not worry about being told, oh, you're a lower life form because you don't believe in what I do. Now, I've been in the shadows for 50 years, really. Well, 55. And I finally came to the conclusion, I've got to come out of the shadows. Yeah, Philip says, Napoleon was taller than the average Frenchman of his time. The rumor was that Napoleon was only 5'2". When I was growing up, this is what they were saying. Turned out that Napoleon was almost 5'10", if I recall the numbers right. But you got to look at Napoleon. Now, yes, there are people like Napoleon. Very volatile outlook. But he was trying to unite the world. Granted, he was trying to unite it under one person. Now, we do have to unite the world. And frankly, what I would love to see happen, I was talking to an internet promoter today. And like I told him, I'm looking at a business right now. I've got very minimal income because I'm only a very small business. But I've built the layout so that it literally can be a multi-billion-dollar industry. And yes, I am inviting each and every one of you to assist me in bringing this about. And I am going to be, compensating people for it. Like I said, net profit is the way I work with that. But it's time we really look in the mirror. I grew up being called four eyes and many other things because of this. Now, here's the really silly part. You've got eyes here, obviously. Some of you, your eyes don't work well. But what you may not be aware of was something I discovered just a couple of months ago. You actually pull a lot of your optical information straight into the cerebral cortex, right through the back of your head. And yes, essentially this means you got eyes in the back of your head. Now, I'm just looking at this, Philip. I honestly have no idea who Tucker Carlson is. But the important factor from my end is this. If we didn't have people with a negative view, we wouldn't know what a positive one was. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a firm believer that it's very necessary for us to really focus on the positive side of things. Dogface, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I trust things are going well on your end of the world. I'm looking at this. Well, don't need that. That goes over there. I've got a staggering amount of stuff on my paper on my bed right now. And needless to say, like I've mentioned before, I have this little problem. Sitting still, I run into all sorts of complications. But when my leg's working, I'm quite content with it. That's got to be dealt with. Now, is that what I need? Yes. This is one of those things that's got to be dealt with. I'm looking at this now. I was offered an option the other day, well, a couple of months back, about sending some of the books out that I've got and getting somebody else to get them moved at their end of the world. So I came to the conclusion it was time I did something about it, which is what this is all about. So that neat little box is going to move some of the stuff. But here's the thing. Now, I keep doing things, and yes, I realize I end up moving about. I end up doing more things at a time than what I probably should. Let us see here. Oh, absolutely. The thing is, Cowie, how you doing? Glad to join. Glad you could join us. The thing is, Philip, the third eye right here, okay, does pick up a staggering amount of information. Okay. The pineal gland, as near as I've been able to piece together, literally helps connect your higher senses, your extended senses, with your brain to give you that extra input, that extra insight. Okay. And by doing that, we end up with a really neat setup. Whoop. There we are. The pineal gland helps access the higher senses. The higher ones being literally clear hearing, clairaudience, clear seeing, clairvoyance, clear feeling, clairsentience. I heard somebody call it one day clairosmic, also known as clear smell. These are senses that reach beyond the range of the normal human senses. Okay, but all of them are extremely useful, especially if you come to accept that every single individual that's ever born has them. Even the stillborn have these higher senses. The funny part about it is that when we really take a look at it, you've got the higher senses, but what are you going to do with them? Are you going to use them to help other people feel better about themselves, or are you going to use your higher senses to capitalize on a weakness you sense? In either event, the choice is yours. Where are we here? When we're looking at the pineal gland, and there's something else around there. Now, I am no neuroscientist. Okay. But what I do know is that the human brain processes way more than any computer does. And with the pineal gland, the more you access it, and yes, utilizing your creative side helps immensely. Yeah, I know a lot of people who do that. Unfortunately, my sense of smell kind of didn't develop. It's got to be pretty potent. Whatever the smell is, has to be pretty potent for me to pick it up. And this is why I say, I do not use myself as a gauge for other people because my system doesn't work the same way. My mom used to cook by sight. She'd eyeball everything. I eyeball everything too. If I'm putting pasta into the pot, I'm going to look where I'm pouring the pasta. There are so many places. And it's not, for me, it's not if, Phillips asked if you could remote smell a place, where would you smell? Okay. Well, the reality of it is this. It's not if I could, it's I do. And I will tell you, the sense back in what you've learned as the Garden of Eden, that incredible array of senses, smells, was absolutely phenomenal. But people misunderstand something. The Garden of Eden wasn't a little patch of land. The Garden of Eden is the planet. Everywhere on the planet combined. But when you get rid of the prejudice, you get rid of the fear, the smell of the world takes on a much brighter smell, brighter feel. It's funny, I've got a client, or more to the point, I had a client. Oh, I can see, yeah, I can smell coffee. And I prefer my coffee very weak. Okay, a normal person, like the average person, when they make coffee, you take a 12-cup pot of water, add 3 to 4 tablespoons of coffee. Okay, and that's how most people make their coffee. I take a 12-cup pot of coffee. I'll put 1 tablespoon of coffee in. Okay, because it cuts the flavor of the chlorine and still gives me a drink. But the thing we have to remember, people talk about the military going to the front line, to defend people. I got a challenge for you guys. Absolutely, I'm not suggesting people take guns and go out and fight each other. I'm telling you, flat out, bad idea. Okay, but hats off to the military and to the ex-military that had the courage and have the courage to pick up a gun to defend their families, their neighborhoods, their country, the nation, whatever it is. But here's a challenge for you. How about if we all get off our collective tail feathers and start pushing the idea, not only to the people in our own home, but to the people in the neighborhood, to the politicians you're dealing with. Start pushing the idea of paying attention to the good things that people are doing, not so much the bad ones. Now, bad things happen. Okay, bad things absolutely happen. But what we have to remember is that if we focus on the bad things, that's if you put the energy into the bad, you're drawing the bad back to you. Now, which would you rather? Visualize getting a massage or visualize getting the stuffing kicked out of you? Ultimately, they're both working your muscles. But which one sounds more appealing from your end? Okay. Or would you rather a nice, fresh, crystal clear cup of water, that you're handed that you can drink? Or would you rather have your head held underwater so you're forced to take a drink? These are things you have to consider. And the moment we start looking at each other as equals, okay, as valuable individuals, that's when the tide turns and we no longer are looking at the extreme negative. Okay, this is the thing we have to realize. Now, guys, again, if you've got questions, absolutely, even if they're not in the same field that we're discussing, put the question in. Okay, and I will do my best to answer it, but make sure it's in all caps, or at least there's a wavy hand telling me it's a question, because all caps is not yelling to me. It's simply letting me know you've got a question. Okay, now from my end, it's real simple. Yes, I am standing up periodically. Kind of have to. Okay, I know what I'm doing with those. What is this? That goes back over here. Where are we? Oh, that's not even, that's fine. See, one of the things we have to realize is what I'm doing, the fact that I do multiple things at once, doesn't make me better than anybody. Yeah, that works well. You can see a lot of me. How about we tilt that, because I'm standing up here. At least this way you can still see who I am. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, by the way. Now, from my end, it's this way. There's a lot of things that have to be done, not the least of which is we have to start looking at each other as equal individuals. Okay, this idea of, oh, you've got blonde hair, therefore you're not as bright as the brunette next to you. This is just categorically wrong. Okay, I've met some blondes that are absolutely brilliant. Yeah, Philip goes, maybe the garden was taken care of by a gardener named Ned, who was electronic. Ned E, when you read it. When you read it backwards, is Eden. It's technically possible, but the reality is, even in today's world, okay, you can catch videos all over the place. Okay, you can see videos all over the place of animals helping animals. Now, if a predator can help an herbivore, one that is actually in its normal venue of food supply, if an animal can do that for a person, why will people not do that for each other? Honestly, this could be why Simpson's biblical neighbor is called Ned. Do the Simpsons people have the secret knowledge too? I get a kick out of the Simpsons. I don't watch it. Of course, I don't watch TV. But the thing we have to remember, with the Simpsons, it often is talking about the state of the world. Not always the good parts of the world. Okay, but the state of the world. And from that end, we have to look at it and go, what are you getting? Is this a play on the state of the world, or is it something that's asking you to replicate it? Okay. Now, I'm a firm believer that cartoons and this imagination side is necessary. Oh, that's not a problem there at all, Jenny. From age 9 to from age 9 until 33, I was working in the hospitality industry. I started off working in a beach canteen, okay, and worked my way up to assistant manager of a fast food restaurant. Then in 1996, I left the hospitality industry and became a professional psychic. Okay, and that was my full-time work for the rest of my working career. That was the last job I had. Okay, and yes, I did see the job closing 5 years before it did. Stupid part is, I'm also a procrastinator, so I didn't do anything about it. And that being said, when you look at it, in the years I was there, I was running quite seriously 80 to 85% of the clients I was dealing with were either referral or callback, meaning somebody else had talked to them and said, "Hey, go talk to Keith. He's got an answer for you." Okay. When the psychic line closed down, I walked away from all the consulting and went, for the most part, and went, I'm not doing it anymore. But about a month ago, I finally said, yeah, I will go back. I will go into the psychic readings again if people desire them. Okay. Now, do understand, I have legitimately been paid in excess of $2,600 an hour for what I do. Okay. I am only charging $20 per 15 minutes. Okay. And again, that boils down to this. And where are we? If you're looking for that kind of input, okay, this is the email address to get a hold of me. If I can get the thing to line up right. This is the email address to contact me through, because I also work prepaid, by the way. But that email also works on YouTube. Okay. Now, in answer to your question there, Philip, What is a beach canteen? Well, if you go to the beach, okay, it doesn't matter what beach, you go into a beach, and there's a kiosk there. In my case, we actually had a solid building that served hot dogs and chips and pop, and chocolate bars, this sort of thing. Okay, it's a place to get a snack and a quick drink, non-alcoholic. In our case, many canteens will have alcohol available. We didn't. Okay, now I started working at 9. By the time I was 12, I was running the canteen, with the two exceptions of mom tied all the financial books off, and either mom or dad phoned the order in. They phoned the order in. The answer to your question, Black Dragon, yes, I do. Okay, and let's see if I've got it where I think it is. I do. Went missing for a little while, or more to the point, I put someplace I forgot about. But this deck of cards here is the one that I actually started reading with back in 1976. I turned, 1970, 13. I'm just trying to think here. Got on my 16th birthday, which would be 1979. This deck is the same deck this is literally the first deck I ever had. Okay. Do I still read? Yeah. Do I still work with them? Certainly. Okay. Was I looking and walking away? Yep. The way I look at it is this. There's a lot of people out there doing it. My issue is I won't lie to somebody to make you feel better, but I will find a way where you can take your life and turn it around. And when you think about it, if you look at my entire career, I've had in excess of 100,000 clients under my belt. Okay. Oddly enough, football, so did Gene Roddenberry when he built Star Trek. Most of what we work with today in the way of technology, Gene Roddenberry foretold during the original series of Star Trek. Okay, but the thing I actually intend on it, Chad, but thank you very much. Yeah, that other poster. Okay, this one right here, that's the birth of the wolf pack. Okay, this is the back of the birth of the wolf pack and the back of the end of an epoch. But yes, I will be filling that wall as I get the other books done up. And once I've just got to find, I don't even know what it costs to get those done because I still haven't gotten an invoice for them. But those prints I am looking at, I'll find out what they actually cost me. And then I'll look at whether or not I'm going to actually turn around. And I probably will. Now, I'm presuming, Philip, that's got to be regarding me. Philip, as near as I know, okay, I know my pant size is only a 36, so my belt size is probably a 40, but I really don't know. All I know is I don't even think my belt actually, I don't think I've got any spare belts. Of course, people ask me a question, and I go, well, do I even have one of those? And I don't think I've even got a spare one anymore. I think I got rid of the loose ones. Yeah. But that's okay. But no, I am now looking at upgrading a whole pile of things. But again, I take a look at people, I will tell you, friendship, business wise, it doesn't matter to me what size somebody is or what they look like. It really doesn't. If it were a question of a relationship, yes, I've got my preferences. Okay. The thing I look at with people, the thing I look at with people is this: how you treat other people. That I'm aware of, Black Dragon, not that I'm aware of. Now, this doesn't mean they don't exist, because understand something very important. Lack of proof of existence is not proof of non-existence. That said, oh, my apologies there, Philip. Told you I'm slow where it comes to that. But yeah, I've dealt with over 100,000 clients. Okay. I think in my last count, I think I worked it out to something like 110,000. Which means when I talk about the way that people behave, I'm talking about personal interaction, that I've dealt with these people, seen what this array of people from virtually every walk of life does to each other and treats each other. Okay, this is why I say fidelity can be balanced out. I did figure out how to get that to happen for people. The fact that I won't even bother putting any effort into putting a relationship back together after fidelity has been breached, that's personal choice. That's personal boundary. It's not that I couldn't, it's that I just flat out won't. Okay, now I've dealt with people from literally every walk of life, all the way from your common everyday run-of-the-mill people to people that have done hard time. Okay, one individual that did hard time, and no, I'm not giving you a name. Okay, I had a gentleman. I didn't know when I first started talking to him exactly what the story was, but what I basically told him was he had been forced out of connection with a girlfriend of his. They were very close, and I says it was somewhere around a decade ago that you two got forced into separation. Well, she's coming back into your life in the next 6 weeks. Right. And the guy sat there, he called me all sorts of really colorful names. Right. And told me flat out he had been in prison for 10 years. He beat him, he lost his temper and beat a man to death as he lost his temper. Well, long story short, 2 days before the 6-week mark that I'd warned him about, his former fiance showed up on his doorstep wanting to get back together. Oh, bonus world, thank you so much for that. And I'm going to do this. I'm just going to go in that chat room right now. I'm in the YouTube channel here as well, in case you hadn't noticed. And let's see if that's doing what it's supposed to. Should be a case of holding of control. There we go. And I'm looking at this. Shadow's just put up a link. I'm calling it up right now. Let's take that and move it over here and see what this thing is. Holy mackerel, Shadow. This is definitely well worth going and taking a look at. Phenomenal amount of detail there. Looks like it's on, like it's done. The landscape looks like it's done with 1-inch styrofoam slabs. Staggering more work. I've often thought about dioramas, especially where my writing is concerned, but I have no idea where to begin with the artwork involved. And besides that, I got way too many things on the go as well. Just scanning back here. But I really appreciate that because I got one of them. I'm actually haven't finished doing them yet. That roper that you've got there that you're showing there, world, I've got one myself. I just haven't finished painting it. But I love the paint job you've done on him. I don't actually have the sound on, but it's clear you're talking about what you did. But the landscaping is just phenomenal. I just frankly don't have a place I could put all of that. But it's not something I can't do. I just haven't. And yes, I've got that Etna you've got with the barrel held over his head. I've got that character as well. Phenomenal work. Like I said, guys, go and check this out. This is the kind of work I'm referring to. And it really does take the art world to a much higher level. Now, I gotta ask, world, what is this? What, pray tell, because I really have to ask this, but you said it's a massive modular cavern system terrain for TTRPG. Now, RPG, I understand all too well, but what does the TT stand for? But again, this is the thing. The creative power in this room is absolutely phenomenal. And it's this kind of power that is all over the world that's being overlooked. It's like I've told people, oh, there we are. TT, tabletop RPG. Oh, okay. So I guess technically, well, literally, that's what my gaming crew does. We just don't have the terrain laid out. We've got the characters. Okay, we've got the figures and that side of it. And like I said, I am working on the creative side, as in for Christmas and for gifts and what have you. Yes, Philip, they do. And we're not going to take that down the next logical step. Philip just throws in this side comment here. The TTs feed the baby, which they do, and that can go to all kinds of other conversations. We'll let your guys' imagination go there. Okay. Oh, okay. See, they come up with all these, and because I've stayed away from the world, like this funny little critter here. Okay, I showed this one to you yesterday, but this little critter here. Okay, this is one of the creatures out of the Yldrbacian Chronicles. Okay, but this critter is the predecessor. I figured out the whole heritage of him. This little guy, as you well know, he's a subterranean lizard. But as you can see, he's got 6 feet. Okay. This said, I decided that the easiest way to build him was to turn around and give him a place that he came from. So I took this, and when time went on, this shrank down to become the monitor lizard. Okay. Which means you're dealing with a critter that first and foremost, it can eat you. There's no problem there. But it's also venomous. Not a good combination. At least not if you're fighting it. Yeah, I haven't tried the virtual side. I've been tempted recently. Unless we call Skyrim a virtual tabletop, but I have been looking into the possibility of playing online, but I've got to find time where I actually can. Because I'll tell you, my schedule is absolutely insane lately. I didn't have enough to write. I had 23 books I was already concurrently writing. And then I started to co-author one with a friend of mine. But again, you never look at anybody and go, oh, look, you're a different color, therefore you're a worse person. Okay? Or, oh my gosh, you've got a walker, therefore you're an invalid. Do understand when you're looking at the two major commodities on the planet that are ignored and completely wasted are the wisdoms of the elderly and the enthusiasm of the youngsters. Okay, now some people say before the lockdown happened, actually before marijuana was legalized, the kids I dealt with literally used to refer to me as grandpa because I was still gray haired, but I never judged any of them. Okay, I never looked at them and went, oh, you're using drugs, it's bad. Okay, I looked at it and went, okay, you're treating each other decently. That's what matters. Okay, and this is the message we have to get out to people. Technically, we don't have to get it out to people. Technically, we can turn around and totally ignore getting out to people and let the world continue to separate itself. But I will tell you, the more it separates, the more you permit the differences to stand out over the similarities, the worse it gets. This was wonderful. Found a bunch of envelopes. I knew I had them, but couldn't remember where I put them. So I look at it this way. We've got a mess on our hands that we have to take a look at. Okay. And if we don't start working together, we are going to have an absolute disaster on our hands. Yes, I'm clearing off things. I can't stay. I found that saying sitting still isn't necessarily good for my health. Quite honestly, it's not really necessarily good for anybody's health. Now, where did that box go? You know where that one is. Oh, I think I know where I put that. Probably in there. Yep. Nope, that's not where I put it. I've got a box around here somewhere. Not there. There it is. Hey, I wonder. What do you think? Yep, that'll fit. And it would cost me a little more, so what? I'm just going to make sure this actually has in it what it requires. Yep. It does, but it also needs a couple other things. So, this is one of the, when I mentioned I got a whole pile of things on the go. Okay, I had a gentleman ask me, somebody I know back east, asked me to send him a box of the Birth of the Wolf Pack. Okay, so I've got this, right? There's a dozen of them, but what he's going to be doing is turning around and getting them set up to see if I can get them sold out on the prairie. Now I go in here and we go. So you take this neat little box we toss those down there. See, what I'm looking at here is very simple. All of this has to happen. When I said I was building a publishing company, that I'm going to build an empire. I don't care what somebody's nationality is. Doesn't matter to me at all. Every single one of you yes, they actually can, Philip. No. Well, the thing is, Philip's asking, do you have virtual reality goggles? The answer is no. But on the flip side of that, my eyes see in 3 phases at the same time, which really makes it entertaining. Okay. I tried virtual reality goggles years ago when it first came out. And I'll tell you, the first system that came out with it, they don't make it today. But it was head and shoulders above what is available today. Okay, absolutely head and shoulders. But I don't have the reactionary time to play most of the video games that are out there. You know, even with Skyrim today, I had to get my son to take care of one of the conflicts because it happened so fast with so little room to maneuver. Now, bear in mind, I've got 2 hands. Okay, I don't know if I've got. Wonder if it's visible. Okay, most of you know anything about machines, about the gaming systems. You know what a gaming controller for the PS system looks like, or for the Xbox. Okay, now I've got 2 hands. I can use both of them. My left one doesn't work as well as I'd like, but my eyes don't work as well. So my son, who has a mild case of CP and only one hand, uses a normal controller and can still run circles around people. You know, so I had to get him to take care of this one obstacle that I couldn't track. The other thing I also found out where it comes to sitting there, Philip, is if I don't get up and move, then my back seizes and my leg swells up and it's just a mess. But when I am looking at people, you know, and going, I'm going to require assistance to make this whole change happen, I'm not referring to I need a whole bunch of Caucasians, or I need East Indians because they're better at something. I'm looking at it going, I require people that actually are interested in making things happen. Hey, that was hot dang shot. Okay, so I got that goes in there. And I'm pretty certain I got loose paper that I can use to stop that from sliding around. Whoa, what's going on here? These are anytime somebody buys a book. Okay, this is the bookmark I send out with it. Okay, you remember that big sign? Like I said, I'm a very firm believer in it. Every single one of you, every single one of the individuals out there, whether or not you're listening to the video or you're talking to somebody that has, okay, the reality is every one of you has got to take this to heart. Okay, this is, with all the languages I've heard, whether they are written, spoken, or sung, it doesn't matter. Those 4 words in combination are the most powerful 4 words available that I've come across regarding self-esteem, self-worth, self-motivation, self-praise, if you will. And there's nothing wrong with being proud of what you do. Okay. The other word that is really important, and one that I struggle a lot with, is the most powerfully persuasive or communicative word available when dealing with any individual is that person's name. And this is why I tell people, and thank you so much for that reminder, Jenny. Jenny Whiteberry is just saying, please remember to give Keith a thumbs up, which I really do appreciate. Every one of you, like I've told you, I refer to people by the name that's in the chat room. I know you all have real names. Some of them are in here, but I don't remember the real names as well as I'd like. Okay. So what I'm looking at here, what did I do? Whole pile of bookmarks I've still got, but they go out with every book that goes out. Every novel especially that goes out, the bookmark goes with it. Usually every bookmark, or every book. So I take that, take my business card. Speaking of which, I got to redo those. Oh, that's what I was doing. There we are. Now I take this, put it back in the room where it needs, in the room. Put it back in the drawer that it needs to be in. And close the drawer up. Now this means I gotta get some loose paper for that, but that's okay. I will go down and do that today. But, I look at the prejudice side of things. Absolutely, Black Dragon. Absolutely. Black Dragon is just adding to that. Believe in yourself, trust in yourself, and most of all, love yourself. Okay. The reality is that's a hard one for a lot of people. Joe, how you doing? Just noticed you in here. I presume you've been hanging around for a while, but thank you so much for sharing your time with us. Joe goes, hi. Just because I don't go to Catholic church with my dad anymore, does that really mean I'll go to hell when I die and I'm not perfect? Well, number one, you're certainly not perfect. As for hell, the church, you got to remember, and you can check the Bible for yourself for this one. Okay. It tells you somewhere in the Bible, even when I was teaching the Bible, or more to the point, teaching people about the Bible. Yeah, I was a Sunday school teacher for a while. In the Bible somewhere, it tells you, and the church rose up and raised its arms unto the heavens and raised its voice to the angels above. Now, that's paraphrasing. I have never seen a building in my entire life that would stand up and lift its arms up to the heavens, nor have I heard of one that ever sang. Now, with this in mind, I become a multi-billionaire, I'll build one, just to say it's there. But the church is this. It's your body, your heart, your mind. That's the temple you're supposed to be paying attention to. It tells you also in the Bible, Joe, wherefore two or more are gathered in my name, there am I. It said nothing about a building. Yeah, Nathan goes, not even the chicken-legged gazebo does that. Christine, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I will suggest something there, Joe. Yes, I do agree with Christine. With your attitude and the way you treat people, there's no room for you in hell. Sorry, all the really annoying beds are taken. They've got a phenomenal massage parlor. Really, really deep tissue massage. Okay. They've also got hot tubs that are absolutely to die for. I mean, myself, I find the hot tubs a little too warm. But no, the reality, Carl, how are you? Glad you could join us. The reality of it is this, Joe. What you do, whether you go to a man-built building in order to listen to somebody stand up at the front of the church and go, "You're going to die. You were born of sin. You're going to hell because you were born." Okay. And this cockamamie idea of let's baptize the kid before it's an adult. A baptism cannot happen until somebody reaches adulthood. It tells you that right in the Bible as well. Okay. So no, Joe, you really have nothing functional to fear about. But if you get a chance to swing down to hell, you should check out their massage parlor. It is phenomenal. The funny part there, Christine, is hell itself. Literally, if you look at the origin of it, or more to the point, if you look at the origin back in the Civil War, when a soldier died on the field, if they didn't have time to bury him, they wouldn't dig a 6-foot hole. They'd dig a 2-foot hole and bury him in rocks and rubble. And that they referred to as going to hell. Okay. But the reality of it is, hell itself, if you believe in hell, you'll have access to it. If you believe in heaven, you can go to heaven. You believe that what happens is when you die, you end up in a coffin and that's where it ends. All of these things are possible. All of these things exist when you get over to the other side. And yes, people have near-death experiences, but even death isn't prejudice. You'll notice death doesn't look at you and go, "Oh, you're the wrong color. You can't come here." Okay. Bill Cosby did a skit one day where everybody was yelling about the differences about the prejudice on the bus. There were Hispanics and Chinese and white people and black people. And Bill goes, he's a bus driver. He says, "Okay, that's it. Hammers on the brakes. Everybody off the bus. Okay, now all of you line up against the bus. From here on out, there are no colors. There's no blacks. There's no yellows. There's no reds. Every single one of you guys is green. Now, everybody back on the bus. Dark greens at the front, light greens at the back." Prejudice is a natural thing, but mankind has elevated it to a staggering level. Christine's going, "Some people who have hellish NDEs, they say that not long into it, they end up in the light or similar." Absolutely. Here's the hellish NDE. Okay, now I went way past the NDE. I just die and go all the way over. And then somebody over there goes, "You're not done. Get back over there." You're not getting off that easy. But here's the thing. What they tell you, what people have likely told you, is when you die, your whole life flashes before your eyes. And you'll notice it's everybody that dies. The whole life flashes before your eyes. Okay? And that is accurate. What they don't tell you is that it flashes before your eyes based on the eyes of the people with whom you have interacted. So if you have been shooting people or beating up on people or just bullying people, every foul word, every derogatory statement, every physical punch or kick that you dealt on somebody else, you feel all of them at the same time. Okay? And that's when you get a look at your life and you go, "Okay, time to reassess. Was this the best use of my life?" That's where you're making the decision on how you want to go to. Now, the flip side of that, if you spent your life being nice to people, talking to strangers, giving people an encouraging word or a simple smile or a comforting pat on the back, okay, then what you get is you get all of that input all in one shot. This is why some people, when they die, they look like they're absolutely, tortured. It's because their life was miserable. Okay, because they did miserable things. not because you had miserable things done to you. Okay. But way too many people use the way they were treated as an excuse to treat other people the same way. And this is what we've got to curb. Okay. Now, the neat part, yeah. What do we got here? Yeah, football's going coffee at night. It's like, and I don't know, coffee in the morning, coffee in the evening, coffee in the afternoon. I think there's a song to that effect. Doesn't have anything to do with coffee. But the reality of it is, yes, they absolutely do. I mean, do understand. A friend of mine gave me that for Christmas, okay, of this year. Now, you notice it says, ew, human. The reality is, I don't have a problem with the human species. I have a problem with the stupidity, with the prejudice, and with the short sightedness. Absolutely. No, I honestly don't turn down coffee very often. I mean, granted, when I'm out, when I go out for coffee, I usually limit it to 3 when I'm out at one sitting. Okay. But the reality of that is 3 coffee when I'm out is akin to 9 like this, which is why you're always seeing the coffee on the go here. But no, this is why I tell people, and I am meeting a viewer the other day, and like I told him, I absolutely them. How we doing, Christy? Glad you could join us. Like I told them, I don't drink alcohol to speak of. Okay. Philip's going, have you ever been at someone's deathbed? I have. I didn't know what to say. I played some music, thought you'd like. My grandma. I miss her. In all fairness, the answer there, Philip, is absolutely yes. I actually gave, now bear in mind, on top of everything else, I am also a registered minister. Okay. I became a minister through the Universal Life Church of California. Okay. And my dad was on his deathbed and he was feeling really, really very depressed. My father, I don't recall seeing him cry when I was growing up, but he was borderline in tears, right? And when I got there, Mom told me, she says, I don't know why your father's hanging on. I said, Dad's hanging on for me to get there because we know my older brother isn't going to be able to make it in time. And I was the only one that couldn't carry the energy. Well, I came in, Dad, on his deathbed, confirmed all of my past life, my psychic encounters, my abductions, the whole 9 yards. He confirmed them all in order, as it were. I was lucky. He did that, and I turned around. I was fortunate. I got to give my father last rites. Okay. When I gave him last rites, he never moved a muscle, never said a word afterwards. 2 days later, he was dead. Okay. So have I been at somebody's bedside when they were dying? Yes. My father-in-law had been diagnosed. The doctors had said, he's done. My former mother-in-law asked if I could do anything. I said, I'll do what I can, but no promises. Right. Well, I worked on my father-in-law for about two hours ish, and I went home. Okay. The next morning, he'd been on the edge of death. The doctors wrote him off. He's gonna die. That's the end of it. Right. Net result, after I worked on him for a couple hours, I went home the next morning. He sits bolt upright in bed. And the first thing he did was ask, he said he's hungry. Right. The only thing he lost was he didn't know he'd been in a coma for 6 weeks. he did eventually die 17 years later. So, I look at that and go, yeah, I was really, really pleasantly, I got a gift and a half at that point. And yet, I was told by the priests of the church at the time that my doing that was the work of the devil. Okay, because I wasn't praying to God. Okay, I wasn't going, now, mind you, I wasn't the one doing the healing. All I did was reminded my father-in-law that he could heal. And I gave him the option of getting guided back or of going over. It was his call. He chose to come back. Okay. I have pulled a young lady out of a wheelchair. Okay. I mean, I sat down, same issue. She was told she'd never walk. So I worked on it for an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I said, okay, stand up. She goes, I can't stand up. I says, how about if we don't discuss what you can't do and you just stand up? If your legs work, you're standing. If they don't, you're back in the wheelchair. No harm, no foul. Okay. Well, we pulled her out of the wheelchair, got her up and walking. From that moment, I ran into her a year later. She never went back to the wheelchair. Okay. And when I met her a year later, she turned around and told me I had been stuck in a wheelchair for 3.5 years. At 13, they put her in a wheelchair and told her they could never get her out of it again. At 17, they said, you're hooked. So, this is just some of the odd things I've done. Okay. And again, like I said, they booked me as dead, shipped me off to the morgue. I got up and walked out. This is why I say my life is, shall we say, a little abnormal. But the thing you have to remember is what I'm telling you does not make me better than any one of you. And there's an old saying that was said centuries back. All that I do, thou shalt do and more. Everything I'm talking about being able to do and having done, I can actually explain most of it. And most of it, you as an individual can actually replicate. Okay, I don't expect you to believe that. Take my word for it or don't. It really doesn't make a whole lot of difference to me. Yeah, Black Dragon's going, and this is back a bit. My ND was at 6 a.m. No, at 6 months old. Had pneumonia, doctors gave up on me and left me for dead. Yeah, I was 5 years when they actually shipped me to the morgue. That was neat. I'll tell you, that was a shock and a half. Oh, I have no idea how they came about it, except I didn't take the body into a church, into a building, put him on an altar, and put my hands on him and out loud, verbally attest to God's presence. I didn't do that. Okay, I had a quiet conversation with him. The next morning, he got up. Now, whether it was beautiful timing on my part, I can't swear to. Was I happy it had worked? Absolutely. The fact of the matter is, like I said, I've been here multiple times in many lifetimes, trying and doing my best to do exactly the same thing I'm doing now. This lifetime, I'm using video now, and I'm using the newsletter. Okay. And yes, I will absolutely sit down with people doing consulting. Will I ever do consulting online or do a reading online for people? Not in a group setting. Not going to happen. Okay. Will I do a live reading for people, as in, give me a call on Skype, on Messenger, I can actually do Zoom if you're calling me, because I have no idea how to set it up. Okay. And I know LinkedIn has a video system. I don't know computers very well. Okay. But am I willing to, number one, do the readings? Certainly. Will I go on air and do readings in public and go, here we are? No, not for individuals. Will I tell you what different cards are indicating? Certainly. Okay. And yes, I am now looking for places to start going online to actually to directly publicize the books I've been writing. Okay. Am I anything special? In my eyes, no. Do other people think I am? Possibly. But I love the way it was put to me, because the thing that really ticks me off and really hurts is when somebody looks at me and goes, "You're prejudiced." I'm not. Okay. Although my ex-wife did tell me I was the only true racist she'd ever met. I looked at her and I says, "You want to run that by me again?" She goes, "Well, think about it. Everybody else." The answer to your question there, Jenny, is yes. Okay. I used to, for 23 years, I worked over the phone. Okay. There is a lot of information that gets missed. But I spent 23 years as an online psychic. Actually, that's not true. That was 23 with one client, with one company. From 96 to 22, which would be 28 years, I spent as an online telephone psychic. When I started doing my psychic work, I started doing it by snail mail. As in, somebody would ship me, they'd send me a letter, okay, with the questions, with a photograph of themselves and their birth date. Okay, and this is why when I decided I was going to go back to the consulting side, I would rather do it via video. Okay, if video is not an option, is it possible to do it that way? Yes. It's just that from my standpoint, there is so much extra information that gets missed by doing it over the phone. Am I able to do it over the phone? Absolutely. Yeah. Joe's going, my father received last rites from a Catholic priest in hospital, 2013. Stroke induced. He was still with the GM, 74 years. He was still with the GM, 74 years now. So I'm prepared for the worst, I think. Joe, I mean, it's always, I will tell you, when I lost my father, well, technically I didn't lose him. I know where he is. But no matter what happens, do brace for it. All the bracing in the world, from my experience, didn't help. Okay. But do your best. Okay. And it's certainly one of those things I do not envy you that path on. My dad, I was lucky. He lived to 81. Myself, I'm aiming for 137. Now, that means if I manage to pull that off, that means I'm only halfway through my life right now. But I will tell you, heart attacks are painful, but there is no way I'm having another flaming stroke. Those are a royal pain in the neck. But now is the time for us to take all of our little prejudices. And, Shadow was right. Everybody has their own prejudice. But you don't have to act on it. Okay, you really don't. Actually, it's doing a lot better. Thank you very much, Christine. This is one of the reasons why I've been getting up and moving, is because this chair that I've got here is not what I would consider a comfortable chair. But you'll notice I can actually stand up now, which is a bonus. I have to, I don't know where that is, so that's going to have to wait. But at least I know how to get everything moving. But the neat part about it, those I got to take up front and see if I can deal with. Actually, I know when I'm going to do that. I wonder. Where are the others? And of course, they're not there. Why would they possibly be there? Yes, all of this stuff has to go. That's obvious. But we have to realize, and I'm sitting here with an absolute disaster behind me. But that's all got to be clear before I go to bed for obvious reasons. Okay, but we've got to focus on taking this whole issue of prejudice and finding ways to make ourselves feel like we're different than everybody else. Okay, the reality is, if we keep finding ways to make ourselves look more isolated, we will succeed. But there's an old saying that holds way too true. Together we stand, divided we fall. And yet society is pushing so much. Oh, I don't relate to this anymore, so that's not what I am. And it's being promoted. Okay. I mean, heck, it's being passed into law. I'm like, are you people completely off your nut? Like, did you even think about the side effects? The funny part about it is I've been called a lot of things, but I think the best one I ever pulled was walking by the park one day. And I heard this, and I mean, it was clearly a priest because, well, he had that neat little fashion statement. And he was tearing a strip off this poor young girl. He turned, this priest was tearing a strip off this poor little girl. I mean, she was 14 years old, maybe. And yes, she had tattoos, she had piercings. Not my choice. Not my choice of style. But this priest was tearing a strip off her, calling her all sorts of names, and he hit it just beautifully for me. I'm just about to walk by, and I hear him clear as a bell. He looks at her and goes, "You're the spawn of the devil." Well, that brought me up short. And I stopped, and I turned around and walked back. I looked at the young lass, and I says, "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I really didn't realize we were related." I said, "I'm really glad to make your acquaintance. I should have, if I'd have realized you were my daughter, I'd have come and looked for you a while ago." Well, the priest looks at me and he goes, "What do you mean by that?" I said, "Well, sir," I said, "I've been called the devil incarnate, which means she's my daughter. That also means back off and leave her alone." Well, the guy turned chalk white and ran across the park. The poor girl was standing there and she didn't know what to make of it. So she looks at me and she goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well," "growing up, I was always told I was the devil incarnate. So if you're now the spawn of the devil, that makes you my daughter." Okay. And let's face it, that gentleman doesn't want to deal with you now. She goes, "Are you serious?" I said, "Not that you're my daughter." I said, "But yeah, I'm dead serious. I was called the devil incarnate." Ended up getting a lot of bullying for it. But this is what I mean by I treat everybody. Yeah, Black Dragon is saying, "I used to help abused women online in chat rooms. They seem to be attracted to me." Okay, and that's the thing. And we already know, Black Dragon, we've talked to you before about this. You're empathic, and that is something that abused people will be drawn to. If they feel that you can connect with them, they will turn to you. The funny thing there, Philip, is no, that particular one did not. I have, however, had people recognize me from past lives. And no, I'm not going to tell you which ones, except one. I was recognized. Let me see. One, if we go way back, one person without giving specifics, one person literally recognized me from the Exodus from Egypt. Okay, there was another one that recognized me from ancient Rome, and of course, in 1828, I had lost a girlfriend. She recognized me this lifetime. I'm not in touch with her now, but we spent a few years in solid contact. I keep hearing something go dinging. I don't know what it is. Oh. Just a message from a business meeting I had earlier. But no, I've got a lot of people that have recognized me from some lifetimes. I just tell people, do not open that door. It was funny, Joe. I'm glad to hear that. I actually went into the psychiatric ward one day to visit a friend of mine that was having a lot of trouble. And I'm in there. I went in to visit him, but got talking to another young lady that was in there. And I looked at her. I talked to her for a couple minutes. The psychiatrist, the on-site psychiatrist, was right there. And I looked at this young lass, and I says, aside from the obvious, you're female, I'm male, there's only one difference between you and I. And she goes, what's that? I says, well, when you went for psychiatric assessment, you didn't know the answers they were looking for. I did. Net result, I'm outside. I don't do the vertical bar scene. I don't do the cage thing well. And I've already done the lab rat routine. Yeah, isn't that always fun, Philip? And this is all it takes, is a couple of minutes of listening. Sometimes that little bit of listening is all it takes to stop somebody from really punching their own ticket. And I mean, I dealt with, in the years that I was online on a psychic line, okay, I had 13 suicide callers call me. One, the lady had been raped. She went to the hospital, got everything dealt with. And then of all the people to talk to, she got in touch with me. It was just a random roll. I was, a random call. I was the next one in queue. But you would think, having been just raped, when she heard a male voice, she would have hung up the phone. Well, I ignored the fact we usually had a time limit. And I just told my bosses, I'm not hanging up on this one. Right. At the time, the lines did not automatically hang up. And I told my boss, I said, look, I'm not hanging up on this client, period. Right. So she only paid, the call still only went 15 minutes that you got paid for. Well, I was on the phone with her straight for almost an hour and a half. And I flat out told my boss I wasn't hanging up. I'm just not. Well, you've only got 15 minutes. I said, I don't care. I'm not hanging up. I didn't get fired. Don't ask me why. But the thing is, every single person that is born, every one of you, is born with higher senses. Problem is that when I was growing up, I grew up right smack in the middle of the Canadian Bible Belt. And needless to say, being an active psychic, an active medium, not a real brilliant idea, especially when you add to that, I was also a 13-year-old gamer, okay, that didn't like sports. Well, let's face it, I was on a cane. Net result, crippled, okay, and short-sighted. Talk about a whole array of things to be called all kinds of names for. Okay, not what I would call my most enjoyable thing. And one day, don't know when, one day, this particular book, I will get copyrighted and what have you. This is one book that will never be edited. Okay, it has a staggering number of typos in it, but that's because it happens to be a channeled autobiography. Okay, I have no idea what it's going to cost to get it printed. I do know the printer's already got a copy of it. But what we have to do as a community it is absolutely imperative that we start focusing on the positive interactions we have and the similarities between people. And yes, I'm absolutely asking you for your help to do this. Okay, now with this in mind, we're just hitting the 2-hour mark here. Okay, I've got a few minutes because, well, we haven't quite hit 6:30. But, what is tomorrow? Tomorrow is Wednesday, and I have no idea what topic I'm looking at tomorrow. Should mark this down so I know what it was I dealt with today. So this would be the time, guys. If you have a suggestion, okay. I don't have a topic set up for tomorrow yet. If you've got a topic you would like to look at, absolutely. Either pop it into the chat room. I'll be here for a few minutes more because it's 20. So we got about 5 minutes before I'm just going to close the stream down. Yesterday I ran longer. Technically I could run longer, but I can feel my throat starting to seize this time. Okay, either drop it into the chat room or drop me an email, drop a message into the notes, into the YouTube comments. Okay, and I will do my best to get back to them. Where are we here? Christy. Is it really? That's terrible. Holy mackerel. Well, thank you very much, Christy. Christy's just going, today is Wednesday, Keith. Okay, I appreciate that. But okay, so I won't be on tomorrow. And let's see, we'll deal with that because it sort of fits as a crossover. Henry, I believe this is where we say we're going to grant your wish. On Friday, yes, it's supposed to be paranormal, but fear falls right into that. Okay, and what we will do is look into what it is about humans that so many off-worlders actually fear, and what we can do about it. How you can work with that fear and start turning something around. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of differences there, Philip. Absolutely. Phil's just going, apparently in Europe, schools are more about educating students, less about sports to entertainment non-students. They don't understand why North American schools are for entertainment. In all fairness, neither do I. We are being taught not how to think. We're being taught what to think. Fortunately, I failed that. I did graduate on the honor roll, meaning I figured out how to answer the questions they were looking for. But that's absolutely weird. I lost today. Oh well, doesn't matter. I obviously won't be back tomorrow, but it does mean I've got to get another project done tonight that I completely forgot about. Okay, but this is why I said I don't track days well. Oh, good, so I'm not the Black Dragon. I run into this regularly. I'll get up in the morning going, what day am I working on? Oh, the typos I never worry about. I just have to sort through them. Sometimes typos can be worked around. Other times I have to ask. But with this in mind, guys, I am going to call it a night. But thank you so much for sharing your time with me. If you haven't already and you like the stream, do give us a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel and share the daylight out of it. And I will be back on Friday. But Friday we will discuss why off-worlders and ancient races fear humans and where the strengths of humans are. Enough of where the flaws are. I mean, I will explain why the fear is there. but it's time to really focus on how we can actually turn all of this around. It's time to work together. Okay, with that in mind, guys, I will be back again on Friday. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.